first quarterly episode of Backlight Boston, presented by Luminarium Dance Company for 2015. This quarter we have Courtney Peix joining us. I hope you enjoy the interview. Joining us this month is Courtney Peix, founder and artistic director of Contrapose Dance. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you've done a lot of, collaborative projects, working with a number of different artists who, maybe aren't dancers, especially with the work that you did, with Larry Pratt, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of choose who you collaborate with?
Oftentimes I'm approached, and if the project is interesting to me in some way, I decide that it's something that I want to do. But really it's just getting out there and meeting people and talking about what I'm passionate about and hearing what they're passionate about. And then sometimes things just sort of evolve. Like what happened with Larry was we were introduced at Green Street, and from there we just kind of went back and forth, did some photo shoots with him and my company. And he ended up writing us into an NSF grant for the performance that we did in November, Hover Dive. So it was a natural progression.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned kind of, stuff that interests you. Mm-hmm. Looking at your background, you have a background in kind of ballet, so your interests must be, a little more varied than just, doing ballet dance.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
kind of what drives you, what interests you, and what keeps you going,
Mm-hmm.
to keep creating?
Well, I started Contrapose Dance because in 2008, when I was not dancing as much, I was sort of looking around at the dance scene and kind of going, what is going on here for dancers that, aren't wanting to dance classical ballet, wanting to be challenged, wanting to do different types of work, and there weren't a lot of companies. There weren't smaller companies like that around, and so I started Contrapose Dance because I was interested in putting together or developing a repertory company, and using the dancers that, or employing the dancers that I saw that were so good, and so I wanted this idea of sort of branching out and bringing in artists and choreographers and really great dancers and commissioning them to do work and then seeing what came of that. And I feel like that's sort of always the underlying drive of Contrapose and of what I'm trying to do. Whether I'm the choreographer or I'm bringing in other choreographers or I'm collaborating with different artists, I love getting artistic people into a room and saying, go and create something. And then seeing what's going to happen. The most recent show that Contrapose co-produced with Fort Point Theater Channel, that was 8 choreographers and 8 artists from Fort Point Theater Channel, and they were paired up. And then we left them alone. We said you have to fill between 3 to 6 minutes, and you guys do what you want to do. And it was amazing, the variety that we got from that show. I mean, it could have gone wrong. And that's also the chance that you have to take. But it was really interesting, and in this particular instance, it went right. Thank God.
So you mentioned kind of some of the projects that you work on, where you're collaborating with other artists and other dancers. What will you define as, collaboration, for you or in Contrapose Dance?
What I define as collaboration, bringing people with a strong artistic point of view together and taking those 2 points of view and creating something that's greater than the individual point of view. I always hope that in collaborating, something greater is going to come from the 2 individuals, and that something unique that couldn't have happened if those 2 people or 3 people or 4 people weren't in the room together, sharing ideas, fighting, struggling, growing, and producing something that represents them as opposed to one.
So it's kind of that idea of, 2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 4 or 5, but 2 plus 2 can equal blue,
Right,
and
exactly.
So it's this transformative in,
Exactly.
what you're bringing to the
Yeah,
table.
and I like that word transformative. It's that, I may have this idea and I'm so passionate about it. Oh my God, I have this great, it's going to be amazing. And then I start talking to somebody else and they make me think, in a completely different direction than I thought I was going to go. And then, you know, I create something, put it out there, and I realize it's like, wow, so much better because of this individual or this idea or this conversation that I had with somebody.
So talking more about, channel dance and the stuff that you did, in peer, in the 4-point channel.
Yes.
There's a lot of construction going on. The mayor has kind of, dubbed that area the innovation district. So what do you kind of draw from working in that area? Because, with all the kind of energy and everything that's going into that area, with the work that's now been put on, obviously innovation isn't just about technology,
Right.
But there's something collaborative that you can build off of technology and dance and innovating in that area.
Right. So I think one of the reasons we ended up in that area for that particular show was because of Mark Miller, who's one of the co-artistic directors of 4-Point Theater Channel, and the fact that they have been sort of in that area for quite a while, and it's really fun to get those artists together because they talk about that build-up and how it's changed so much, and there's a lot of excitement involved with that. But if you've been around there, there's a lot of art that's happening in that area, as well as, like you said, innovation, a lot of structures going up, and there's this sort of frenetic feel to it, or sort of like everything's sort of vibrating a little bit there. And I don't think I really felt that, and I don't think that the other choreographers necessarily felt that until the performance days, because we weren't creating the art or the pieces in that area. We were, renting space at Green Street or the dance complex or wherever, and the artists were building sets. And I will say though that when we were in this space, it was really exciting because we were in this lobby area, and I think it was Walensky's and Smith is the restaurant that's there. Let me just say that again. So we're in the lobby area, and it kind of hits up against Walensky's and Smith, which is a restaurant, and we're setting up, and people are coming and going through this public walkway, and there are tables set up, and we're putting the floor down, and we're setting up the backdrop and lights, and there's just this really fun quality of watching people stop and stare and see what's happening. And then during tech rehearsal, we didn't even get to do a dress rehearsal, but during tech rehearsal, people would just be sort of like, what is happening here? Yeah. And that's where that fun energy kind of plays off of one another. We at one point we had like a waiter come out, and he did this sort of like this movement improv through us. It was really, really interesting.
So, recently you've kind of demonstrated a talent and interest in organizing collaborative projects. Do you kind of have any upcoming, collaborative projects you're working on?
So, upcoming stuff for Contrapose Dance. So we have this opera with Mark Warhol. That will be happening in September, and we also are going to be performing in May at the Oberon.
Oh, great.
I received a commission from David Parker to choreograph a 12 to 15 minute piece that's for the small stage. And what he's trying to do, it's actually a really great initiative. He's trying to work with Dance Now NYC and create a Boston chapter. Dance Now NYC produces a series at Joe's Pub in New York for the small stage, and he's trying to get something off the ground, a similar thing in Boston at the Oberon. So this is the second year that this is happening. Last year, Kelly Edwards, Nicole Pierce, and Lorraine Chapman were commissioned to do the work, and then he presented some of his pieces. And this year it's myself, Peter DeMuro, and Kathy Young. And that's coming up in the very beginning of May. If I'm remembering correctly, it's May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And we'll be doing 2 of the 4 shows that they present.
So something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to, yeah. I actually started the piece that I'm going to be presenting. I started it as a way to kind of enter into the process. I started it for Channel Dance. So the piece that I choreographed in Channel Dance with the artist Daniel J. Van Acker, all of that movement is going to be pulled out because he created this platform. He built this platform and he embedded all these little LED lights that sort of twinkled, and then he created this canopy that hung over it, and then the dancers inhabited that space and did the piece, danced. It was really cool. And that was based off of his artwork that you can see on A Street. He has all these little LED lights strung across the underneath of a bridge or the ceiling, right? And they twinkle. He calls it Starry Night. So he tried to take an aspect of that, and he made this platform. It was really cool. So I'm going to take all of that material and I'm going to continue to develop it into this 12 to 15 minute piece.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
So Courtney, if people wanted to find out more about you, Contrapose Dance, how might they do that?
They can go to www.contraposedance.com. They can check me out on Twitter, although I'm not that great about Twitter. Twitter and I are not necessarily friends. And we have a Facebook page, Contrapose Dance, and they can always contact me. My email is Courtney Peix at contraposedance.com.
Great. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
And now, events from the Boston dance community. Construction and innovation that's happening in the Seaport District, it's great to see that dance is finally making its way into that area as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Backlight Boston presented by Luminarium Dance Company. If you'd like more information, you can email us at info@luminariumdance.com or tweet us at Backlight Boston. I hope you enjoyed this quarter's episode. We will see you next quarter. Thank you so much.